People who quit their jobs on the first day, what made you say, I'm done with this? When I saw that the microwave was coin-operated. Who even builds coin-operated microwaves? I didn't even know that was a thing till now. Nice try, stereotypical bad manager. I worked at a company that tried their damnedest to keep people leaving for lunch, despite it being state law, and only had coin-operated snack machines in the break room. And we're talking 2 USD honey buns back in the mid-00s. I should have taken that as a sign like OP did. I had a company that kept us in the building for lunch by providing amazing $5-6 sandwiches. In quotes, because we voluntarily stayed for the food. We were a small company, 5 to 6 on any given day, and due to the nature of the business, it benefit the business for us to all go to lunch at the same time. And it always benefits a company to keep the employees in the building, because then no one ever returns late from lunch. However, it's highly illegal to require it. So the boss sent the secretary out every Monday to the grocery store. She bought all the high-end deli meats, the good bakery breads and rolls, and carts full of snacks. Sometimes she's grabbed something like a rotisserie chicken and shredded up for us. Potato salad and macaroni salad and regular iceberg salad. Ice cream bars in the freezer, pickles, every condiment known to man. Special request or dietary restricted items upon request. Even breakfast items were available if someone just needed a quick pick-me-up. Anyone who wanted to stay for lunch paid $5 and ate whatever the heck they wanted. It went up to $6 because fucking Joey and his double-deckers. Fuck Joey. Lunch would be called, and we'd literally empty the fridge of all its contents onto the table and start making sandwiches. Lunches were exactly 29.5 minutes, because the boss knew what he was doing with this system, LOL. That said, it was still the best idea for the employees, because what else are you gonna do? Spend twice as much for shitty McDonald's and spend half your lunch break in the drive-thru? It worked for everyone. It was a food truck owned by this Russian dude. His cash register was so convoluted. He'd be like, to sell hot dog push burger, then subtract 2 sodas and a small fry. Then he just left me alone. It was overwhelming, and I just didn't come back. Lomeo Adke, why this made me laugh. Good story. Did you also read it in a thick Slavic accent? Line job in a factory that assembled magazines. Because of all the paper sliding along the tracks, little bits would gum up the gears, and they wanted us to reach inside and pull out all the wads of paper scrap about once an hour while someone manually held down a button that paused the machine from moving. Refused, clocked out for lunch, and left. Yeah, fuck that. You unfucking plug this machine before my appendages go anywhere near it. It was a job through a temp agency, and they called me the next day saying I disappeared, and I explained what happened. They said they totally understood, but that since I had just walked off the job, they couldn't represent me anymore. I said I was totally fine with that. Smart move. Not like there's a million other temp agencies that you could jump on with if you so wanted. Ditch the dorks who were literally trying to feed you to a meat grinder. By the way, we never mentioned it at the interview, but you will get 50% pay for 6 months till your trial period is over. I was halfway into my first shift when they sprang that on me. I turned around and walked out. No discussion, didn't say a word, just left. And after the trail, they probably fire you, and that way they have underpaid workers for half a year. Had a job kind of like that, but it was union. They only sent you the union paperwork after a month to sign the contract and send it back. Weirdly, everyone seemed to get fired after about a month. All for different reasons. There were a handful of union employees there that handled the union-only jobs. Everyone else, they just wanted to fill in the labor but not have to actually deal with having union employees. Hey man, did you already subscribe on me? You don't? Subscribe and press like faster. I interviewed for a job like that like 20 years ago. Factory worker in a box company. They advertised $20 HR, which was pretty decent 20 years ago. Go through the entire interview, walk the floor with the hiring manager. Then he offers me the job and I said good, because I liked the pay. He turns around and says that pay is actually not $20 HR, it's $10 HR. They only advertised $20 HR because if they were upfront about the pay, then no one would apply. I asked him if that switcheroo actually worked on anyone, and he smiled and said yes. I told him it didn't work on me, and thanks for wasting my time. Guy was such a cunt. As I turned to walk out the door, he said, "You don't have a job. I think you have time to waste." Fucking annoying and sleazy trying to take advantage of unemployed people. Fuck him and fuck his job. It was the first but not the last time someone pulled shit at a job interview. I applied for a loan servicing management position at a bank maybe 10 years ago. Get to the place, have a short interview with an office manager that shows me around, and we chat for 15 minutes or so before she takes me to the hiring manager's office. We start the interview and she's asking me tons of questions pertaining to loan origination and processing. Not my field, very different from servicing. I stopped her maybe 4 questions in and told her, I think she's looking at the wrong job or interviewee. Told her my name and what I was there for. She said she had it right, and the job was actually for a processing manager position, not servicing. I asked why she would advertise for one job when it was for another. She said she advertises for both and hoped they cast a wider range of applicants. I stood up and told her I wasn't interested in a processing management position, and I was leaving. She asked if she could still conduct the interview anyway. I said okay, figured give me an opportunity to practice my interview skills. After about 20 more minutes, she abruptly stopped the interview and said, I don't think you're right for this position. I professionally said no shit and left. And one of my first jobs in high school was for a bakery in a buffet type place. The boss told me that they held the first month's paycheck and that it would be given to me if I was ever fired so that I had money after. When I got fired, the boss denied it. Found out later he was taking the paycheck before direct deposit from most people with this lie. Always a reminder that anything official like this that should be tracked, to get written confirmation that it happened and not walk into a trust me bro situation. When I found out their time clock system didn't track hours worked, but the minutes spent typing or moving your mouse, and it'd take random screenshots too. If you're in a video meeting, I guess they get to take pictures of you too. All that, and they wanted this installed on my personal computer. That and a few other reasons made me back out after one day. Heck nah. If they want to install stuff, they need to provide a company device. Seriously, they tried to walk it back, saying that they'd make a special exception for me so I wouldn't quit, but went on how I'd be judged solely on the work I'm submitting. That's how it's supposed to work. I was laid off from my first job back when I was in high school due to the housing crisis in the Eurozoros. I was a dishwasher at a restaurant. When new management took over, they offered everyone their old jobs back, and I accepted. I tried to take my CD player that I had left there before the layoff home with me, and I was told that I was stealing as it was company property since it was there when they took over. Everyone in the kitchen attested that it was my CD player, but the new manager wouldn't hear of it, so I just walked out with it. I was called later that night by HR telling me I was fired for stealing company property. I guess I didn't quit, but I was going to do it anyway. I was between jobs and got a temp job helping with payroll, and they told me I would have to hold paychecks for people who did not return their uniform, and when I pointed out this was illegal and showed them the law, they said to do it anyway, so I quit and went back on unemployment until I found a real job 3 weeks later. Quitting a job because they want you to break the law gets you unemployment in most states. It was a telemarketing company selling timeshares around the US. My first call was an old lady who told me the story of how her husband fell down the stairs 2 weeks ago and died right in front of her. My manager was over my shoulder listening in and said something like, "Okay, now pitch the package." I left immediately. It was supposed to be a B2B sales job. First day, I get paired with a highly successful veteran salesman, and we go downtown. Next thing I know, we're walking into a Jiffy Lube waiting area, and the guy I'm with busts out a box of makeup samples and starts trying to sell makeup to the people waiting for their oil to get changed. We leave, and I'm like, "Yo, WTF, I thought this was B2B sales?" He's like, "Well, I do go from business to business doing sales." I'm like, "Motherfucker, that's door to door, not business to business, LOL. I asked to be brought back to my car and never called those fools back. It's super common in my area to see marketing manager jobs. Then you go to the interview and find out it's actually a door-to-door sales scheme where they train you to be a manager and open your own branch. In high school, a friend of mine talked up this warehouse job he had for an online surplus store. They gave him a bunch of free electronics and sports equipment. As a high school student, that seemed pretty cool, so I decided to try working there for the summer. Now I realize that was a red flag. On my first day, they asked me to package a commercial range hood that had to be shipped to Alaska. They had no packing material or boxes and refused to buy any. I created a box by piecing together scraps of cardboard and covered them in a ton of tape. Then I filled the box with crumpled printer paper from the office. The manager saw me doing this and proceeded to yell at me for 10 minutes because I wasted their printer paper. I laughed at him and walked out of there. Of course, my friend later told me the range hood was destroyed in shipping and the manager was livid. A year later, the business was busted for selling stolen GPS units. I got a summer job as an HR office assistant while in college. They told me on my first day that they had to fire some people later in the week, and they needed me to do it because they didn't want to. I didn't come back the next day. Not only did I, of course, not want to do it, but I was shocked at the callous disrespect they had for the employees that they wanted to fire. If you want to destroy someone's livelihood, have the balls to fucking do it yourself. Yeah, you were there to take the grunt, and they were going to fire you right after. I was a cold caller trying to solicit donations for an organization. Called a guy. His widow answered the phone saying he had recently passed. Supervisor said I should try and get the widow to make a donation. I was done. Hate cold callers looking for dollars. Appreciate that you aren't one of them. I was assigned to a middle school grade 6 as a student teacher. I was supposed to be under the guidance of the classroom teacher. She was all too willing to let me be in complete charge and told me I could just do whatever. I called my faculty advisor and requested to be reassigned. The next day, I was at a different school with a teacher who knew what she was doing. These PPL are still out there, spending time with our children. What is up with us? There's a teacher shortage. Can't fire people without replacement. I remember starting a job at a call center for a particular company that has such a bad reputation. They need to change their name every so often. They were telling us how we have 7 minutes allotted for personal time, like bathroom breaks. There was one bathroom in the building, way down at the other end of the building. So on our first 15-minute break, I walked to it. Took 4.5 minutes to get there. So when we came back from break, I asked, "So what happens if you go over the allotted time?" And the trainer goes, "Well, then the Mintus are tracked and deducted from your pay." I got up and walked towards the door, and the guy goes, "See? That's an example of complete unprofessionalism, and that's okay, this type of job isn't for quitters." I spun around and went, "I can handle the job, chucklefuck. What I won't do is degrade myself by working for a place that monitors how long it takes you to shit." Not quite the first day, I have a mortgage, but been through the entire interview process. Small pay rise plus quite a generous company pension. All confirmed in writing. Cool, thinks I. Leave my existing job and start at the new place. A week or two in, HR does their induction. And the generous company pension doesn't exist. It's statutory minimum. Obviously, I raised this because that's not what I signed up for. The answer comes back, "Tough, that's the pension." Excuse me, but we agreed in writing that it wasn't. Don't care, that's the pension. They were astonished when I put in my resignation about a month later. There's the employment lawyer out there in physical pain that you didn't sue. Easy money. Can't sue for constructive dismissal if you've been there less than 2 years in the UK. The most I could realistically do is take them to court for 6 weeks pension contributions at the amount they incorrectly offered. And who wants to be the guy who sues former employers for a couple of £100? In the event, the new job gave me another pay rise and a much better pension, which they didn't welsh on. I was happy to be out of there. Work in IT and got a new job as a sysadmin, and on the first day found support tickets where the guy before me was required to track every second of his time through it. Several tickets that read something like "cleaned office, 15 minutes. No thanks, I'm not a child that needs supervision. Luckily, my old job let me come back like I never left. I malicious compliance the manager into tears over a policy like that. Motherfucker, I have autism, you want me to turn detail mode on? I will end your shit. I timed how long it took me to type website addresses into the search bar, and also added the time I had to take to set up the stopwatch to time myself, among other things. Got hired as a farmhand for a potato farmer as a summer job from college. Minimum wage through the local job office where I was told, "This guy has gone through a lot of workers." First thing he told me to do was change the oil in the tractor and pointed to where things were. Now I had changed the oil in my car, but that hardly compared. I managed. Next, I was given a suicide jack and told to walk out to the field where a 40-boot tire on one of those huge sprinkler systems had slipped off the railroad tie going over the ditch, and use the jack to get it lifted out of the ditch and somehow use my 130 pump-out frame to move it back onto the railroad tie. I managed. Lunchtime came and I had trudged back from the field with the jack. The farmer sees me and says, "I'm going to the house for lunch. Please eat in your car." Luckily, I had brought my own lunch, but it was 90 degrees out and I was a sweaty, filthy mess from what I had done so far and had no way to clean up. I managed. For the afternoon, the farmer had me perch on the back of the potato planter while he drove it down the field, and I had to hop back and forth between the planter bins and manually make sure the potatoes were dropping into the feeder tubes. I managed. Got a call shortly after getting home, asking if I'd like an assembly line job in an air-conditioned factory. Never went back to the potato farm. That sounds like a fucking day in hell. Good on you for managing. Basic restaurant server job. I was in college. The drive was kind of long, and as a college student, that matters a lot. I was mostly getting a job due to feeling like I was inadequate if I didn't have one. So I go buy the black clothes required and show up. But the clothes weren't black enough due to having a gray lining around the button-up shirt's collar and cuffs on the inside of the shirt. It barely peeked through under certain angles. They told me to leave and come back when the clothes fit their requirements. So I drove back to campus, called them up, and quit on the phone. It was just way too much BS to deal with and did not bode well. I was in high school, working 3 part-time jobs. I had gotten hired as a cashier at a supermarket. I really just wanted to be a stock boy, but oh well. I show up to work and the manager isn't there. So I just start asking people like, hey, I'm new, how do I clock in? What do I do? Eventually someone clocks me in like an hour late. They put me on a register, show me the produce code sheet like once, then left me alone. No clue how to do a sale, no idea how to do coupons, etc. The manager shows up halfway through and yells at me in front of a customer for not knowing produce codes. Even the customer was like, hey, it's his first day. Calm down. Time for my lunch break. Nobody has shown me where the staff room is, so I just buy lunch from the store and eat it in the cafe area. Manager storms in, takes my tray, throws the rest of my food away, and goes off that I cannot eat where customers are, that I'm stupid, etc. I just got up, threw the apron at her, and walked out. Absolutely ridiculous. I did, however, go back and demand my check for hours worked, because fuck that. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe, press like, and comment. Did you ever experience such a wild first days in your job?